This is the OMFL.
You can't touch this.
And you're in the mix with Kinda Real Name. Here's another OMFL production.
When I hit you up, I'm talking about banging something. Chill off in your crib and half a thing, probably make this thing or something. Get out of order. When you wanna give me that, you purchase a plane ticket. Run around now when I bust the.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Saints and Sinners OMFL Saints Franchise Podcast. I have not been able to do one of these, but here we are. So here's a little disclaimer. This is coming out after the patch dropped for Madden 20. And that patch, man, has caused us a whole lot of issues. It's caused us a lot of complications, a lot of problems, and I'm going off of the first franchise that we set up. Now, this franchise does not have the update. It technically has the update, but the offensive lineman can't be added. So we're in the process of restarting. We did technically restart, but it also added a whole bunch of issues. And so right now we're waiting for the Creation Center to come back up, get our new roster that's ready to go, get the imports added in, and get this thing ready to go. So hopefully in the next 48 hours we'll be good to go. But right now I did want to get out a Saints and Sinners podcast. I took over the New Orleans Saints. Last year we were in the playoffs every single year. I don't know how I pulled that off, but we did. We got into the playoffs, and then the last season, season 85, I think, got all the way to the NFC Championship game, but did lose to the Atlanta Falcons. Madden 20 started out really good for me. I felt like I had a flow. The game fit me well. It fit my team well. But the Saints roster is interesting, to say the least. And so let me just kind of talk about my roster and kind of exactly how I built it. So we did have a free agent draft that took place. Of course, I was at the bottom of that draft, but I did go ahead and take a middle linebacker, Donald Payne. I just wanted to add some athleticism to this linebacker crew and just have a little bit more speed. So Donald Payne, 25 years old, 86 speed, 90 acceleration. I love that. He can move. He's got that 90 agility. 71 strength is like right towards my minimum threshold. I like in the 70s, higher 70s, of course, the better. But this one just kind of barely breaks in, and it's okay. His awareness is not that great with 67, but it was kind of the best of what was left out there in free agency. His tackle's plenty good enough for me, 82. It can be worked on. I love his hit power at 85. Can't really get off of blocks that well, but we're going to have to try to keep the blocks off of him, so to speak. He does have a nice finesse move. He's got good pursuit. And his man and coverage zones are lower than I want. This will probably be a user guy. I don't really know. I'm playing with the idea of exactly where I'm going to use her. I usually am a safety guy. I've moved over to linebacker. I've kind of moved around, and I'm even playing with the idea, and I may test out what it's going to be like to play some cornerback. I know that Clyde Vertigo here plays cornerback, and I think I'm going to give it a shot just to see how I like it and see how things go. But this is a good player. I'm happy with it. Not an instant starter, but he'll give me some good playing time. I'm really thinking I'm going to go with a 3-4. So we can talk a little bit more about that right now, exactly how this team is laid out. Of course, you got Drew Brees. He's got plenty enough left in the tank to win. I don't like his throwing power, but he's so accurate. You can make those pinpoint throws. You just have to anticipate the throw a little bit more than you normally would. Teddy Bridgewater is here as a guy that I can build off of. I don't love Teddy Bridgewater. I don't hate him, but I don't love him. I probably will draft a running back in one of these first two drafts here. We'll see. Like the quarterback situation is a little bit fluid. I do like a guy with mobility, especially in Madden 20. Taysom Hill is one of my favorite plays. I love everything he does except for his throwing power. 82. I don't think that that's realistic. Madden really robbed him in the throwing power. He's at least an 86 to 89. I think he's closer to 89. Oh, my bad. But this is where he's at, and so there's nothing I can really do with that. Of course, the halfback situation is pretty set in stone. I got Kamara back here and Murray. Both of those guys will be good, at least for a season or two. I am working a deal to bring in another running back that can be a young running back, but I also have Washington that I do like, and he has played really well. Zach Line is my fullback, 29 years old, though. That's going to have to be replaced in the next 2 or 3 seasons. But right now, he's going to be plenty good enough. At receiver, you got Michael Thomas and Ted Ginn. Ted Ginn, of course, is 34, so I'm going to get one more season out of him. Michael Thomas is a stud. He doesn't have the speed that I like. I like speed guys. I will trade catch. I'll even trade some route running to get a good speed guy. But Mike Thomas is going to be a stud. He's going to be able to make great catches. Traquan Smith is a guy that could definitely build. He would play great for me as a number 2 guy in Madden 19, and I think he'll be fine here as well. Keith Kirkwood is going to be a project, probably will stay on this team because he's got enough speed to stay, and he's got enough of those other abilities to stay, but I don't know if he'll stay long term. Carr and Humphrey probably not going to make this team. Humphrey will probably go over to the practice squad, and I'm even playing with the idea to see if guys will let me move him over to tight end. And all I can do is, like every other owner, request it and see. His speed isn't crazy, his height, his size is, smaller size of a receiving tight end, but he's going to be useless as a receiver. Cobb's probably going to go to the practice squad. And Butler, we'll see. He's an interesting prospect. I think he's got enough speed to be here. We just have to see. I don't know. I got to play with him a little bit more and see how this works out. Still Grayson and Deontay Harris. Both of these guys are really just speedsters, returnmen. Even in the new roster update, these 2 guys have been adjusted a little bit more. They'll probably be lower overall. Deontay Harris is going to be my returner. He's got tons of speed. He is the NCAA returning touchdown leader in his career from Assumption. And then Grayson was a track star at LSU, played for Seattle last year, and now he's with the Saints. We'll see. Both of these guys in our CFM have played amazingly well as backup plans. I usually don't like small receivers, though. I don't like just straight speed receivers. But these guys have so much speed as returners and so much playmaking ability. I think that they'll probably end up staying on this team. We'll see. Loaded at tight end. This team is just absolutely loaded. Jared Cook is a playmaker, but he is 32. Probably just going to get a season or 2 out of him. Hill, Arnold, and Griffin have been on this team for a while. Dan Arnold will probably go to practice squad just to save space, as will Elise Mack. I love Elise Mack. May not let him go to practice squad because I know that moves him to a 1-year contract, and I kind of want to keep him on his rookie deal. So we'll see with Elise, but I can't keep 5. I have a hard time keeping 3. Definitely can't keep 5. So somebody's going to have to go, and I'm going to have to lose one of these guys. I'm leaning towards Josh Hill, just because he makes so much money. I'm going to save some money with him, and he's 29. And so I'm going to start to lose some of these abilities, and Dan Arnold, I think, gives me a younger guy with the same type of playmaking ability. This offensive line is grossly underrated. That's why I bought in my import that plays guard for me. But Armstead's a stud. Problem, he's 28. He's going to keep getting older here. He did get the superstar ability, so we'll see exactly how he plays. And I'll try to hang on to him as long as I possibly can. But the offensive line is by far going to get all of my focus early, all of my training, and a lot of my draft picks are going to go right here. At guard, you got Pete and Clapp. Pete is going to probably be my 6th offensive lineman, a guy that if I can re-sign at a cheap cost, I'll do that. But we'll have to see. 72 overall, and his strength and everything makes him play decent, but not a stud. At center, McCoy, I love. He needs some build up. He is a rookie. We don't know what his Devo type is. My assumption he's going to be normal. But I do have Eason back here as just a backup plan. And I do like Tom. At guard, we're going to see Andrew Dutcher. He is my import that I bought up. Guy's an absolute stud. It also gives me some flexibility with Warford, who is 28, that maybe I can deal some of these guys and get some draft picks. And then Ramczyk, he's going to hold down this offensive line. Him and Dutcher are going to be the build-around pieces. And I think with my rookie McCoy, that gives me 3 of my 5 pieces pretty set. This offensive line is pretty set and should be set for most of this Madden. Moving on over to the defensive line and the defensive side of the ball, this is where things get a little bit tricky. Just because I'm unsure of exactly where I'm going to go. I'm really leaning towards going with a 3-4. I think Cam Jordan can play in a 3-4. He's got plenty enough strength, plenty enough size to play a defensive end in the 3-4. Granderson doesn't really fit, but he is a rookie. I could move him to outside linebacker, to that left outside linebacker position, which is going to be that rush in. But I've got so many players that fit there. We'll just kind of see. Carl Granderson's probably a guy that's going to move over to the practice squad, or I may just let Horton go because he is 30 years old. Now, on the other defensive end spot, this is where this gets funky because Henderson, Davenport, and Martin are probably outside linebackers in a 3-4. If anybody, maybe Henderson can stay on the defensive line, but I do want to find some playing time for him because he's a playmaker and he can make plays. Davenport and Martin, my initial thoughts, are going to immediately bounce to the outside and play in this left outside linebacker spot. So then it questions who's going to play right in. And that's when I go to my defensive tackles. I would think that I'm going to probably bump Rankins to the outside. I mean, he's 305, Onyemata's 300, Brown's 320. And then you got Williams that's 328. The problem is Williams is 30 and 69 overall. You really got these three guys that you get to play with, and Jordan's already got one spot, so somebody's not going to get a lot of playing time, and it's like, who do you put where? I personally like Onyemata on the outside. I think that he rushes the quarterback better, but then you kind of forced to put Rankins in the middle because you can't sit an 83 overall, and then maybe you put Rankins on the outside and let Brown play the middle, but at 85 strength, it kind of leaves you open to kind of have that ball pushed right in the middle. My knee-jerk reactions are that Rankins and Brown will be my starters with Cam Jordan, and then these other guys are going to move around a little bit. Maybe I give Edwards some opportunities, but at 280, he's going to have to go to the outside in this 3-4. And I just don't see how Williams at 30 years old on a 86 strength is going to get any playing time. Probably won't make this team. Stallworth will probably go over to the practice squad. Left outside linebacker, this is where things get, again, funny because if I'm going to play a 3-4, then Klein probably needs to bounce into the inside. I also really like Beagle. I'm going to try to build him. He's from Wisconsin. The Saints picked him up last year as a draft pick. Oh, no, from the Packers. They picked him up as a free agent. He's just got some playmaking ability, and he plays really well whenever you're playing in the game. But this spot will probably end up going to Hendrickson, Davenport, Martin. Martin's another guy that I didn't talk a lot about, but this dude's been making plays in the preseason. But the problem is he's 27 years old. He doesn't have a ton of awareness. He's not going to be able to play the zone that well, but he is kind of a leading candidate to go into this. But, man, Davenport's going to be hard to sit as a second-year player and with tons of physical ability. Middle linebacker, again, we talked about Payne early. Anzalone's an automatic starter. I'm assuming that I will bump Skankly out, probably over to that left outside linebacker spot because he doesn't have a lot of speed. Bump Klein back inside to give me three linebackers there. Going to the right outside linebacker spot, Davis is pretty much set in stone. The idea has been, do I bump Davis inside? Do I bump Anzalone to the outside? But at 30, Davis has only got a season or two left in him, and he does have the best zone and man coverage and cutting tight ends in this league. I probably want that speed and that man coverage out there. And then you got a couple of projects that you can keep out there and see how they're going to play. So I think that the starters are pretty much set with a little bit of flexibility to see who's going to be the primary backups. Going over to cornerback, of course, Marshawn Lattimore is set in stone. It's who falls into this number two because you really have just a bunch of number 3s and 4s. You don't have that number 2. Of course, Ken Crawley in Madden 19 was really my number 2. I was able to build him up, and he played great. He's got the 92 speed. He's got the 91 speed, 92 acceleration, the 89 agility. So he's able to flow and move, and he's got plenty of speed. It's just Eli Apple throws a little bit of a wrench in there. He's 2 years younger, 1 overall higher. He's got better speed by 1 point. Right underneath him in agility, he's stronger. A little bit dumber, but only 3 points. And then he's better man in same zone. I really don't like Patrick Robinson there just because of the speed. I'm probably going to move him to nickel, maybe even dime. I do like Kayvon Webster, that came from the Broncos, I think. He's got some playmaking ability. But then it's like, what do you do with Patrick Williams? He's got 90 speed, 95 acceleration. So my mind's a little blown about what do you do here. I think Williams' man coverage and zone coverage kind of bumps him below everybody. And then Hardy is really the project here. Here's my thoughts, though. Do I play as Hardy and play as the cornerback? I lose some agility there, but I gain a little bit of speed. But if I'm going to do that, why not keep the agility and the speed with Apple, user him? You get a guy that's probably the youngest out of this entire group, with Marshawn Lattimore and Eli Apple being your starters. Then you move to safety. Here's where you're pretty set in stone with these two guys. Gardner Johnson will get a lot of playing time in this league and on this team. The idea is, though, do I bump him over to strong safety because he's got that 90 speed, that 90 acceleration, or do I move Williams over to strong safety because he has the better man and the better zone coverage? That's kind of the idea that I'm playing with here. Move Williams over to strong, let Gardner play free. And then what do you do with these guys? Because you do have Bell, who is really good, and Hampton, who I really, really like. Leaves Gray a little bit out in the open as a guy that can probably move to practice squad, but may get, snatched up. And then Hampton is a guy that you want to user. So probably move Hampton over to free safety. I user a free safety and Gardner or Hampton, depending on which one's in the game. Leave Bell in strong safety and let Bell and Williams play my CPU strong safety positions. Kicker and punter are pretty much set. My problem is the money that I spend on these guys. I'm a big supporter of drafting rookies and just being on rookie contracts at all times, never paying a kicker or a punter because they just take so much money from you. You can see what Morstead and Lutz are taking from me, even though I'm a real-life Saints fan. And man, it's going to be really hard to cut both these guys because they're set in stone. 97 kick power here for Lutz, and then 94 kick power for Thomas. Definitely set for this year, but definitely something I got to look in the next couple years. Who knows? Maybe I could squeeze a draft pick out of somebody for one of these guys and go draft me somebody. Kind of moves me to my draft picks. I did pick up a draft pick from the LA Rams for a fullback that I had, but I'm also going to be giving up a draft pick in two deals that I have going on. One that's been agreed to in person before the update for both the Eagles and the Packers. Hopefully those guys will stick to that and I can still make those happen. But that should add some offensive firepower to this team that really is going to need to add some speed and some athleticism. So this kind of brings us to our first game. You can definitely see that. I'll link that here in the description. I didn't play my second game. I was out of town, so I'm not going to really talk about it's not what I want. I'm not going to talk about that first game, but I will talk about my Vikings game. I played Crazy B-Man. It was a crazy game. We played this on All Madden, and I didn't like the sliders. It definitely needed some work. Vikings jumped out to a really big lead here. The Saints make a comeback. Taysom Hill played unbelievable, but all quarterbacks really did. We'll look at that here in just a second. But the Vikings really dominated this. I mean, they jumped out. I know we were tied at halftime, but the Vikings dominated the first half. Really had a lead most of the game, and then the Saints kind of made plays here and there that kept them in it. They dominated in the rush yard game. I know, the stats show that it was close, but it didn't feel close. He really dominated me, rushing the ball with his starters. The passing game really was all Taysom Hill in the fourth quarter. He really went off and played great, but you can see 17 first downs to only 12 first downs here for the Minnesota Vikings. 2 turnovers for the Saints, 1 turnover for the Vikings. 4 third down conversions. It's about the only area where I played pretty well against the Minnesota Vikings in third down. And then offensive red zone percentage, he was just money in the red zone. I was able to control the clock, make it a little bit even, but it was really in the second half. He controlled the clock in the entire first half. Looking at this, you can see Cousins played really, really well. He was 2 for 2. Where's the yards? Oh, here it is, 26 yards. He was on fire really, really early. And then this is the guy who came in and really had his way with me, 150 yards. He did throw a pick, but it was just a bad throw. But he was 10 for 14, and he played really solid, and he had some money throws. Again, Taysom Hill played great for me. Drew Brees was 3 for 4. Taysom was 4 for 5. Bridgewater was 5 for 8. See, all those quarterbacks played really well, but Taysom Hill with 62 yards in the air, and then Bridgewater with the 1 touchdown. You see rushing here. Nope, that's receiving. Let's go over here to rushing. Murray had 10 for 84. He had 2 break tackles, though. He really was able to play as like that big, strong running back. Darkwa for the Vikings, 4 for 35. Korma didn't play all that great. He only had the 3 carries for 26 yards. And then you can see these other guys here. Dwayne Washington, actually, not too bad. He's definitely a project. Then you see my 2 guys here that really went off here. Grayson and Harris. Harris, 2 receptions for 24 yards, a long of 20. And then Grayson, 5 for 144 for 28 yards and a catch, and then 1 touchdown. I thought he had a carry. Here it is, 1 carry for -4 yards. So that wasn't it. It must have been taken. I thought he had a carry that got him a good play. This guy got behind the defense. He was running all over the place. He avoided the big hit because I think with the big hit, he's going to drop the ball. But he played really well, and he raised some eyebrows for me. The blocking never really shows all that much. I think here we go. We got Ola, Eason, McCoy, Hill, Samaya, and Jones gave up 2. So you see that there was some sacks from all of these teams. Eli Apple with 8 tackles. Beagle, a guy that we got from the Packers, with 7 tackles. Really played well for me. And then even Skankley, who had a tackle for loss and 5 tackles. 2 tackles for loss for Horton, which was really nice. One of those was a sack. And then David Onyemata threw in 2 sacks. This guy just makes plays ever since Madden 19. Of course, Horton with the sack. Weatherly, Cam Jordan got after. Stevenson, Smith, Watts, and then Hendrickson. Lots of sacks in this game. And I think only 1 turnover. Oh, no, 2. I'm sorry. McKenzie, Alexander, and Eli Apple both had some interceptions. This is the part of the game that really shocked me. Both of my guys played great here. 1 kick return for 28 yards and 4 for 119, an average of 29.8. Both of those guys played really, really well for me. And the Grayson, the 1 punt return for 14 yards. Both of these guys will make the team just because of what they add on offense with that speed stretching ability, but also what they can do in the return game. So Saints come out with a victory here, 24-23. The second game was actually a CPU game. I'm not sure if Colin played this game or not. I'm not really going to talk a whole lot about it. And it really just leads us to where we are. We're kind of stuck in week 3. Clyde and I actually played in the new CFM, and I kind of came with a victory. But I don't know if I really want to talk about it because we weren't really 100% set there. But we can go and look at it, and I'll cover week 3 of the preseason that we'll probably have to get redone here.
Now let's take a minute to see how you can improve your team.
Let him finish talking. This was my game against the Jets and Clyde Vertigo. I won 34-31, but as you can see, I had to make a late 4th quarter comeback here. Again, another game where I was dominated. This was on All-Pro. Again, the sliders didn't feel all that great. It definitely needed some adjustment. We definitely made some adjustments after. But overall, it was a pretty fun game and a pretty good game. The problem with these games have been the quarterbacks. They've just played too well. You can see Sam Darnold was 71%. Taysom Hill was 100%. He only threw the ball 2 times. But Teddy Bridgewater was 83%. Simeon 66%. 82% for Drew Brees. All of those are sky high and way, way too much. And so we had to definitely lower some of those things. Sam Darnold with a touchdown. Simeon with a touchdown and an interception. And then Drew threw 2 picks. But I was really just trying some new stuff. A couple plays. One of them along the sideline was a really great play from Clyde Vertigo. His cornerback made a tiptoe interception on the sideline. Rushing, Bell had his way, averaging 7.4 yards a game, or a gain, an attempt, whatever you want to call it. 9 carries for 67 yards, and he pretty much shut down Kamara, 12 for 29. Shut down all of my running backs. Murray only had 5 for 22. And all of his guys played really, really well. Looking at the receptions, Jamison Crowder, 5 for 105. No touchdowns, but Mike Thomas had 5 for 78. Roby Anderson had the long touchdown of 54. He had 2 for 68. Again, 4 for 52. And then Murray catching the ball at the backfield, 4 for 48. My two big guys I really like were pretty quiet, 2 for 34 and 2 for 28, but didn't play all that well on offense. And the starters played most of this game, 3/4 of this game, so those guys didn't get a whole lot of playing time. I think there was but one sack. Yeah, Harrison there gave. Oh, here we go. Warford, Newhouse, and Ramczyk. So 3 of my guys gave up sacks. Only one of his guys did. Then interceptions, there was only 3 of them. Miles, Robinson, and Tremaine Johnson. Those guys all played really, really well. And then in the kick return game, this is big for me. Again, Dante Harris had a great game with 26.8 average on 4 returns. And then I don't know that there was any punt returns. Yeah, there was no punt returns. There was hardly any punting in this game. I think there was 1 punt from each, and they both went out of bounds. So that's where we are here in week 3 for Saints and Sinners of your Saints OMFL franchise. We got a long way to go as we continue to figure out these sliders and figure out exactly what we're going to do with our team. I am leaning for a 3-4, adding some playmaking ability, and we'll see. A lot of work to do, and I'm ready to just get at it. I know we're all itching to play, so hopefully we'll have some answers here really, really soon. So thanks for watching a little Saints and Sinners OMFL CFM franchise podcast. We'll see you next time. Have a great week. God bless. Peace.